Hey guys, this is our web design workshop for our design framework for building exceptional websites for clients. I want to welcome you designers here. I am so glad that you have joined me for this workshop. Thank you for taking some time out of your busy day to hang out with me and learn about our web design framework that helps us build exceptional websites for our clients. That's me. I'm Cassidy, and my goal for you is to leave this workshop feeling way more confident about how to design amazing websites for your clients that are absolutely worth charging well for. So my web design story begins when I started playing around with designing Squarespace websites for friends and family, local businesses back in high school. It was not that long ago, but at this point it was around 10 years ago, and I thought that it was amazing that I could help translate these clients' messages and missions into a beautiful website that showed people how amazing their company was. I really got a lot of satisfaction and had a passion for helping people do that through web design. I thought that was really cool. I continued practicing web design throughout college, and then I was able to team up with my now co-founder, Amanda, a few years later to offer brand design and website design to clients through our business, Foxtrot Branding. That's our logo there. And we've now been able to design websites for over 70 incredible clients and counting. It's been a really cool journey. And of course, that's the simplified version of the story. There was a ton of learning and growing we've done over the past 5 years. And I want to acknowledge that your web design could and does likely look different than ours. And that's okay. That's a good thing. I love that all of our journeys are unique. Maybe you currently offer web design, but you want to enhance the quality of your web design so that you can charge more for them and feel more confident for them. Maybe that's you. Or maybe you're thinking about adding web design to your existing services, some kind of design services or freelancing you offer. Or maybe you've never charged for web design and you're thinking about working with clients for the first time or making a career out of this thing. That might be where a lot of you guys find yourself, and that was me too. But no matter where you're currently at, I want you to know that there is a place for you in the design industry if this is something that you want to pursue. And I know you're going to take away some really helpful insights about our web design framework from this presentation. So get your notebook out, get your iPad, whatever you're going to use, because I think you're going to want to take some notes, and let's go ahead and jump into the presentation. So the points that we're going to cover today are the web design builder we use, some design strategies and best practices, copywriting and site messaging, because I know that's a big topic for a lot of us, using smart site imagery, the importance of calls to action, having a great web design process, and then at the end, I'm going to share a super helpful web design resource that I think you'll be really interested in. So let's first talk about web design builders. People ask me all the time on social media, like on TikTok, hey, which web builder do you use? And I want to make it clear that while the web builder you choose matters, it is a big deal and it's important, your web design knowledge and strategy that you use matter equally as much, if not more, than the web builder that you use. So I designed with Squarespace for our service-based business clients. And today I'm going to be speaking to mostly service-based websites, but you can also apply many of the principles that I'm going to talk about to e-commerce websites as well. And then I'll also give some specific tips for Squarespace, but again, you can use these principles for any web builder that you choose to use. And then I also want to talk about the importance of having general marketing knowledge. So what first helped us learn web design principles and great user experience in general was the simple marketing strategies that were taught in the book, Building a Story Brand. So this is the book, it's by Donald Miller, and it's actually not specifically a web design resource. It's more an overall marketing philosophy that has some really amazing principles about user experience and how to clearly communicate your marketing message, no matter the format you're using, but it does also talk about web design. So many of the elements that I'm going to discuss in this workshop come from the story brand philosophy and good marketing practices in general. So our first web design framework principle is make your design audience centered. Something that I learned from StoryBrand is to make your customer, so whoever the focus of the website is for the audience, make them the hero of your brand story and make your company the guide to them. Basically, don't make the design about your client's business. Make it about what your client's business can do for their customer. When we first started designing sites, I really didn't know how to lay out page sections, and I would kind of just like mimic the order in which other websites laid out their content, but I didn't really understand why they were built and laid out the way they were. And while the sites we were making, they looked really nice and everyone thought aesthetically they looked really good, they weren't strategic to our clients' industries and how their customers were navigating their sites, so they weren't converting as well as they could have been. So I want to talk about how we design with the audience in mind. When I create my layouts now, I keep in mind the top questions that the customer will have, and I create my design around answering those questions as quickly and clearly as I can. And I'm going to show you some specific examples. So let's compare some real-life wedding photographer websites, just as an example, to see what makes a layout audience-centered. And before I look at these examples, I want to think about some questions that a person on a wedding photographer's website might have. And some of those top questions are likely going to be, okay, how much do you charge? How much are your services? Are you available for my wedding date? What's your availability? Are you right for me specifically? Like, do you have the style that I'm looking for? And can I see some of that work? Like, what is your aesthetic and your style? Can I see what you've done for past couples? So these are two websites that I pulled randomly. I do not know who made these websites. No hate to anyone that made these websites. I just thought they were good examples of a website here on the left that is a little bit too vague, doesn't hit those main questions, and then a website on the right here, which I actually know uses story brand philosophy that really answers all of those questions right away. So looking at this website on the left, it's a little too minimal and it's not answering all of those questions. So one of the questions it is answering is, what does your style look like? Can I see some of your work? That's hitting on that right away, which I love to see these big, beautiful pictures. However, it's not really pointing me to answers of what's your availability? How much is it going to cost? Some of those things. It's a little bit vague. You can see it's kind of tiny here, but they have their philosophy, meet us, portfolio, journal, contact. Those are taking us to some more information, but really not hitting on that key info right away that we're looking for. Especially as an audience, we're probably looking at a bunch of different wedding websites, and we want to find that key info really quickly. If we look over at this website example, it is super descriptive and it hits on all of those essential questions in a really great order. So it says exactly what kind of wedding photographer they are, where they're located, and their call to action here, which we'll talk a little bit more about CTAs in a second, but it's request, pricing, and availability, which is a lovely call to action because they're telling us right away two of the biggest pieces of info that we're looking for, and it's just right there. I also love that they have a video here that's super interactive, and it really answers those questions right away. Just in this first area of their homepage, it's answering all those questions. So this is an example of how you can lay out your content for the customer in an audience-centered way. I want to talk a little bit about layout strategy. So this kind of goes into brand strategy as well, which I know is kind of a buzzword in the design community right now, but it is really important to do some kind of brand strategy with your client to figure out what their audience's core problems, questions, and desires are, and then you want to base your web design around answering and solving those. If you don't communicate those things simply and quickly, you're going to lose your audience. So you want to make sure you design from the perspective of what your audience wants to know right away. Design framework principle number 2 is keep the messaging clear and concise. This ties into our first principle of an audience-centered design because you want to ensure the messaging on your website is really, really easy for your audience to consume. Because let's be honest, none of us really take the time to read large paragraphs, especially when we're looking for just some key bits of info. When it comes to copy for your website, you can lay it out strategically, whether you're writing it, whether your client is writing the copy, or whether you're working with a copywriter. Those are all options that web designers use. But whatever you go with, you want to use compelling headlines and short descriptions. So if we look back at our 2 wedding photography website examples, which are on my next slide, you can see the difference in how much easier it is to read through these and understand them. So this is an about page on that other wedding photography website, and you can see they have some really big chunks of copy going on here, and it's just hard to find the key info. I'm likely not going to be reading through it all. The headers are very vague. It says like relationships. It's just vague. It's not helping me find the information I'm looking for. Whereas if we look back at this one, they've got really concise headers, really concise sentences below those headers that's just hitting on the key info and helping me find what I need and compelling me to take the next step. When it comes to getting content from your clients, I know that gathering that content and the copy from your client can really be a challenge and can really kind of hold you up in a web design sometimes. So I emphasize the importance of getting this content in a super timely manner when I'm working with clients so that I have time to break it up and place it throughout my design. And this is why I use a Google content questionnaire template to request this content from my clients. I have a bunch of areas and pre-made questions that I use for every client. This is a document that I share in my Squarespace course for designers. This is something that goes along with the content. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that course at the end, but this is a very helpful resource for getting all this content, whether, like I said, you're writing the copy, whether the client is just giving it to you, whether you're working with a copywriter. This document keeps everything in one nice, tidy place and helps you get it on time. Okay, design framework principle number 3, use images of success. The images you use in your web design matter. Yeah, duh. This might sound obvious, but a big mistake for small businesses is to use images on their website that don't enhance or even take away from their message. You want to encourage your client to use images that show people successfully and happily enjoying their service or the results of that service. So let's look at some examples of this. This example is maybe some poor imagery choices for a law practice. And like looking at these images, they're beautiful. They're very aesthetic. But many times small businesses will choose vague stock images or like an image of their building or their team. You know, there's definitely a place for team images and like what the outside of the building looks like. But a lot of the time these images add very little to their message because it's not showing people what working with this person would be like. Because if I'm looking to work with a law firm, I want to see examples of people in that process. I want to see them looking happy, looking like they're getting the help and the attention they need. So this is an example of some good images that you could use on a website for a skincare brand, because the best website images help customers envision themselves using that service or that product and finding success or happiness or whatever their desire is. So for a skincare brand, we want to see people with beautiful, glowing skin using the products, making it look fun and easy. You really want to include faces and smiling faces if you can, because that speaks volumes to audiences when they're looking at maybe purchasing a product or using a service, but they're on the edge. We really want to help them imagine that success for themselves. So some other example images of success. If it's a restaurant, use gorgeous photos of the food and people happily eating in the restaurant. If it's a lawn care business, you could show a beautiful, well-manicured lawn. A lot of times for lawn care businesses, I'll see like a few blades of grass or, I don't know, just something that doesn't really show the outcome that people are looking for. Use something that people want to have for themselves. If it's a wedding planner, show the planner happily planning out the design or the couples thriving on their wedding day. This is actually an image from a client that we worked with, and I loved their brand photography because it showed their team putting this wedding together, planning it, looking super happy, and it just helped, their clients and their audience imagine, oh, working with them actually looks really fun and easy. They can see that visually. Many small businesses don't have a ton of high quality images to choose from, and maybe they'll opt for stock images, which is totally okay if the stock images are relevant and they enhance the messaging. Squarespace actually has a built-in Unsplash integration, which is cool because Unsplash is a free stock image website, and it also makes adding alternate descriptions to your photos in Squarespace really easy. They have a great image platform for keeping all your images there and making sure you check all those boxes of everything you need to do. And website images are also something I ask for in my content questionnaire Google Doc, which is what I provide in my Squarespace course. That was that screenshot I showed a couple of slides back, but I tell them, hey, upload your images to this Google file so that I can find everything really easily. Okay, principle number 4 is implement elevated branding. Strategic website content and elevated branding are the 2 key elements of an exceptional website, and that's why I really love pairing the story brand principles with our design expertise, because it creates such a compelling website experience for your client. When it comes to creating a brand kit, even if you're not providing branding services with your web design services, you can still create a simple brand kit of colors and fonts for the website that looks really amazing if the client does not already have that. And once you've picked out the brand kit, and implementing it into your Squarespace web design becomes really easy because of the site-wide styles in Squarespace. That's something I really like. So Squarespace in particular has done a lot of work in their updates in the past couple of years to make their color and their font selections really intuitive, and it makes my builds go very quickly. They utilize a color palette, and then they automatically build section themes that you can set up at the beginning of your web design based on the colors in your mockup. So it just makes everything go very quickly and intuitively. Okay, design framework principle number 4, create a repetitive call to action, CTA for short. A part of our web design process that we tackle at the very beginning with our client is choosing a call to action, their main ask for the website. A lot of times I'll see small businesses use a ton of different buttons and links and titles throughout their website, and what they do is they accidentally bury the lead by making their main contact button a really small link that says contact in an unassuming area of the website, not somewhere where people's eyes are going to be drawn, and that's a big mistake because you're not helping people take that next step. Something important to discuss with your client in that strategy meeting or that initial meeting you have with them to kick off the project is what the number one purpose of their website is. If it's a service-based company, almost every time it's going to be to get potential clients to reach out to them, get them to that point of contact. So this means that the focus of the website should not be to help people learn more or meet the team. Those might be aspects of it, but the focus and the goal for the website, why it exists, is to get people to the point of contact, and it's important to get on the same page about that with your client. The best way to do that, to make your call to action active, is to choose an active phrase like book now, reach out today, work with us, call today. This makes it really easy for people to take the next step when they're ready. This is an example of some call to action buttons here, and you can see we have it in the upper right hand corner because this is your prime real estate area, and then we keep it really consistent and repetitive throughout the site. So, like I mentioned, the location, the upper right-hand corner, is where you always want to keep one distinct button, and then you want to repeat it in the same color and phrasing throughout the website. Squarespace, in their navigation, they actually have a built-in call to action button, as well as a site-wide button styles, so it makes creating this consistent look and putting it in these areas super streamlined and just like part of the building process already. If you are curious about kind of what the website building process looks like, how I choose a call to action, how I choose what colors to make it, where to put it, in my Squarespace design framework course, I actually have a lot of design with me videos where I design a site in real time, and you get to watch me implement a call to action. You get to watch me lay out all these different page sections, and I think it's just really helpful to actually get to watch someone work through these things in real time. So that's a big part of my course, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about that resource at the end of these points. Okay, design framework principle number 6, make your hero banner strategic. So the hero banner is the most important section of your web design, and this is the first section of the homepage. That's what your hero banner is. And you have less than 15 seconds to capture someone's attention when they get on a website. I would say 15 max. That's the longest people are going to give you. So this means that your hero banner design needs to be super captivating and super clear, the first thing that people see. So your hero banner should tell people 3 things. First, what you offer. What do you do? Second, how is that thing going to make their lives better? Whatever you do, how is it going to enhance their life? How is it going to solve their problem? How is it going to transform them into the person they want to be? And number 3, how can they purchase that thing, or how can they work with you? It needs to tell them those 3 things. So many times, especially with Squarespace sites, for some reason, I see people use like just a photo or a carousel of photos with no text over it. For example, this wedding website that we looked at. I'm sorry, wedding website. I have nothing against you. It's just a great example of what not to do. And while the images, might be beautiful in this slider, it's actually a huge waste of your prime real estate that could be converting your client's customers right then and there. So there's a ton of different layouts in Squarespace that you can use in the hero banner to accommodate the quality and type of photos that you have, or the lack thereof. So it doesn't always have to be like a huge banner photo if that's not what your client has. But whichever layout you use, you want to make it compelling enough to grab the audience's attention and to leave them wanting more, to leave them being like, okay, that answers one of the main questions I have. This person might be right for me. Let's continue looking into them and see if, they check off these other boxes for me. Design framework principle number 7 is simplify your navigation and your footer. So the navigation and the footer, the top and the bottom of your website, those are the elements of our web design process that we guessed at designing a lot early on in our business. So we would put whichever links like felt right or like seemed to make sense, but you can be way more strategic than that when you're creating your web designs. So for navigation bars, this is at the top of your website. You want to keep only the essential links that give people information on like a need to know basis. You want to keep decision fatigue at a minimum. So you don't want people like having a bunch of options and not knowing what to click. The navigation is not the place to include every single link on your website. You only want to include, in most cases, the 3 to 6 most commonly trafficked websites on your site. So for service-based websites, this is typically going to be like your services, your portfolio, your about, and your contact pages. For us on our Foxtrot website, our most trafficked page is our services page. So that's always something you're going to want to include on a service-based website because that's what people are looking for. They want to know how much does it cost? How does it work? What's your availability? Those type of things. If you are working on a project where there are more essential pages and you just have to include more than those 6 pages, consider looking at a drop-down menu or like a mega menu layout to keep things organized and easy to look at. Basically, you just don't want to present people with a bunch of options all in one place. You want to make it so that they can easily navigate it and like it's easy on their eyes to find what they're looking for. Now the footer is where you actually want to put just about every single link on your website, but in an organized way. So we're subconsciously trained to look for the footer on a website for information if we can't find a link. So for example, if I'm on Amazon and I can't find the specific area of my account, I'm gonna scroll to the footer and try and find the link that I'm looking for. So that's why it's important to keep all that information in the footer. And you'll wanna include like a sitemap there with all of the page links and all of those pages with extra information like the policies, the FAQs, the help articles. But the key is to keep it organized and easy to look at. So use lots of columns and nice formatting. Make sure everything is very logical and you organize it from the perspective of the customer and what they might be looking for. In Squarespace, they have pre-made navigation and footer sections that make this really easy, but it's also equally as easy to create your own footer sections because of the drag and drop blocks that fall into the grid columns. And actually, they have a newer editor too, where you don't have to work in those columns as much and you have a little bit more freedom, but they do make it super simple to create these navigation and these footer layouts. Design principle number 8 is to follow a foolproof process. These web design principles that we've discussed today, they're going to take you really far when it comes to creating exceptional web designs that will truly convert for your clients and their audience. But if you don't have a great design process to follow while implementing these principles, it's actually going to be really difficult to design efficiently, to help your clients have a great experience, and to ensure that you're not skipping really important steps in the process and having to go back and like redo them or take longer. And that's why it's vital to develop a step-by-step process for your web designs that you can follow every single time for all the projects that you work on with clients. The benefits of a great process are that breaking up the planning, designing, the review, and the finalization stages of the process are going to help you design much more quickly and also feel way less stressed about where the design is headed, where you are in the process, because you have a plan to follow. You're like, oh yeah, I'm in the review stage right now, so at this time I'm going to be going into the finalization stages, and it just gives you a lot of peace of mind to have all of this laid out and ready to go. Some web design tools that really help me in my process are Google Docs, gluemaps.com, that's a sitemap website, and Adobe XD, that's a mockup software. These help me plan out my designs, and then I'm able to just hop into Squarespace and implement this plan that I've already created, which is a huge time saver for me. Squarespace supports a great process like this too because it's an amazing platform for both web design beginners and also more experienced web designers like myself, because you can easily create simple websites with Squarespace's built-in blocks and tools, or you can create more complex web designs with lots of custom coding like CSS, but it's not necessary. You can create gorgeous creative web designs either way. they're both amazing in their own right. Squarespace also makes it really easy to create the websites for your clients because you can create websites on your account and then you can transfer them to your clients and you'll even get a referral fee for doing that. So Squarespace, they advertise themselves a lot as a very user-friendly platform for business owners themselves, but it's extremely easy and possible for web designers like myself to create a business out of creating Squarespace websites for clients, because it's actually a process that many business owners are just not capable of doing themselves. That's why, we're looking into these web design principles today, because there's a lot to consider. So you can totally make a thriving design business out of designing on a website builder like Squarespace for your clients. A few more Squarespace pros, some things I really like about the platform, are the site-wide styles. Like I mentioned before, makes it really quick and easy to get all of your styles consistent throughout all of the pages. It's very easy for clients to use, so it's an all-in-one platform, so you don't have to worry about paying for secondary hosting or plugin updates. All of that is taken care of in one subscription, and the editor is very easy for clients to pick up on their own and to tweak content for themselves as they need to. So a lot of the clients that I work with are very independent, smart business owners who want to be able to continue editing and making tweaks to their website in the future without having to rely on someone like me. I do offer website maintenance to some of my clients, but most of my clients love Squarespace because they can go in and they can swap out a photo, they can update some text, they can change out their service as their business evolves, and they don't have to worry about it being all custom coded or being a really complicated editor to use. They can do it themselves. I love that about Squarespace. Also, I love the education community. If you have an issue with Squarespace, you can Google it and probably about 5 different articles or videos are going to come up about how to fix that problem or some code that you could try. I love how many educators there are out there supporting you guys with and me with resources like those videos, blog posts, so many cool tools online. And it's also a great place to dip your toes into CSS custom code. So when I started using Squarespace, I did not know anything about custom coding. I didn't know what CSS was, but as I had some design issues where I needed to work outside of what was already included in the Squarespace editor, I started using a few codes. I'd copy and paste them in and I'd try it out and I'd see how it worked. And I eventually got to the point where I am now, where I'm super comfortable with CSS and I use a ton of CSS and HTML on my websites that I design now. And Squarespace was a really cool place for me to learn that because the templates are all the same. And so they make it really easy to pick up on how CSS works and kind of build your way into learning how to use it and to making more optimized and creative designs for your clients. If you've been thinking about offering Squarespace web design to your clients, or maybe you've been wanting to feel more confident in your web design abilities, I want to share with you a really exciting resource that I think you might find really helpful. And that resource is my Squarespace Design Framework course, which is a course by my business, Foxtrot Branding, and I'll tell you a little bit more about it. It's a step-by-step guide to confidently and easily designing Squarespace websites that your clients will love. It has over 25 step-by-step video lessons, and those lessons I teach you how to kick off your project, how to gather content from your client. I teach you wireframing and mocking up your site. I do real-time design with me videos for those parts of it. I teach you how to start new sites for your clients and transfer them over, how to create a brand kit and site styles, how to streamline the building process so that it flies by, it goes really quickly, and your designing is very efficient, how to manage requests and changes from your client, and how to ensure your site is launched smoothly and your clients leave really happy and raving after you work with them. So this is a little overview of what's included in this course. So these are the video lessons. There's a couple bonuses here, which I'll talk about in a second. You get 4 of our complimentary Google Docs, which are a huge time saver because you can use these primary docs again and again for each client, and you make sure you're not missing any steps. And then also the Design With Me videos. I do 7 real-time Design With Me videos where I show myself mocking up a real website wireframe, doing the mock-up, and then I also show you how I build out that design in Squarespace, which I think is a great way to learn from somebody, to actually get to watch their process of how they do it, hear their thoughts behind why they're doing what they're doing. It's one of my favorite parts of this course. One of the two bonuses is the CSS module. So this is an intro to CSS module that will give you an understanding of the basics of what you can do with CSS on your website and give you tons of copy and paste snippets. CSS really opens up a whole new world of opportunities for creativity, optimization, and being able to charge more for your designs. So this intro to CSS is a really great way to dip your toes in and start feeling a little bit more comfortable about exploring it and being able to optimize your website designs more. The second bonus is our Slack community. So our Slack community is where the Squarespace Design Framework students get to ask questions, get support, and encourage each other as you work through the course and you start working with clients. This is a huge resource and somewhere I love to get to talk with you guys and get to help you out, and you guys help each other out. If you have questions about anything, if you have, a project coming up and you're like, hey, I've never done this before. Can you guys give me some insight into what you've done before? This community is really, really supportive and helpful. And, sometimes when you take online courses, you're going to have questions. And if you don't have that live instructor there with you, it can be difficult and you might get stuck. But that's not going to happen to you with this course because you have this community. Some FAQs that I get from you guys a lot is, how long will I have access to the course content? So you have access to all the course content for the lifetime of the course. As long as the course is up, you are going to be able to go back to everything and look at it. You're not going to get kicked out at a certain point. You're always going to have access to the content. Is this a self-guided course? Yes, this is a self-guided course that you can jump into at any order that you want to. That's why I've made the videos in bite-sized pieces so that you can find the exact info that you're looking for. Does the course cover the new Fluid Engine editor? So Squarespace, at the time of recording this, has a relatively new update called Fluid Engine. And this is an editor that changes how you can lay out things a little bit differently. So the content of this course is being revised and added to as we become more familiar with Fluid Engine, and you're going to have resources that are going to help you design with the most current editor of Squarespace. And also in the Slack group, I'm always updating you guys with where I'm at on that and making sure that if you have any questions about, specific updates, I'm there to answer them and help you guys out. What if I use a different web builder, but I'm still interested in the course? So much of this course content is centered around Squarespace, but the general web design process and the principles could be applied to any web builder. So like making a wireframe and a mockup, getting feedback from clients, that can all be applied no matter which builder you're using. So if you're considering using Squarespace, but you're not sure if it's right for you, you're definitely going to take away a ton of great knowledge from this course. And on the information page for the course, I actually list out every single lesson that's included in it. So go take a look at that, and I think that will help you make the right decision. What if I haven't designed websites for clients before? This course is an amazing starting place for absolute web design beginners or more experienced designers because of the fundamental web design principles and the processes that are taught. So if you haven't designed websites before, this is going to be a great place to start. If you have designed websites before but you want to enhance your process, I think it's going to support you in that way too. Is there a support group for the course? Yes, that Slack group that I talked about is an incredible support group. Does the course focus on building a website using an existing template, or does it dive into ways to further customize it? So the course focuses on the process of building custom designs, and I recommended the course content that you start your designs from scratch rather than using a template. I want you guys to be able to design original designs for your clients that are going to be very valuable and going to convert for your client's specific audience. And then finally, does the course include updates when the Squarespace platform updates? Yes, I'm going to update the course to reflect changes for the platform. Like I mentioned, Fluid Engine, so if things change, I'm going to make sure all of the content is still relevant.